very important guest tonight is Derek Zhang. Mr. Derek, can you raise your hand so that we know who you are? Derek Zhang. Derek Zhang. The reason we want to single Derek out is because he has been sponsoring this event for 2 years. All right? He's a big boss. He has three publicly listed companies in Hong Kong, and all do really well. Yeah. So we want to welcome the big boss here. Oh, another very important person just got here. Dr. Lau Mingwei, we have a big Christmas party coming, okay? December 21st. And last year we had 300 students right here. We open up all the panels, and there's a huge party. So I want you guys to know now, so tomorrow you can actually start signing up for the Christmas party. And each one of you can actually get 2 tickets. For your boyfriend, or girlfriend, or whoever you want to bring, okay? Regular SDC 1 ticket, the Christmas party, 2 tickets. Is it okay? Good, good. Okay, while we're waiting, I'm going to do more talking, okay? Okay, Derek Zhang, big boss of Baibei Holdings. Apart from being a sponsor for this event for 2 years, you know what he did in September? Him and his partner, Sam, is also a good friend of mine. They went to Asian Games and came back to Hong Kong with a silver medal. In what? In bridge. Yes. Okay, bridge. He's 66, 67 years old. He's no secret now, Can you imagine, a person of that age can actually win a silver medal at the Asian Games? So if he can win what you guys can certainly do it. Okay? So this is it, Derek, I've done. Thank you. So I've done, introducing Derek, okay? Now, Dr. Lau Mingwei, I think everybody here knows and know, who this gentleman is. Now, my eyes are getting small. Well, I hope you actually read Dr. Lau Mingwei's bio before you come down here today, right? Okay, you guys read it? Yes? Right. I'm going to do a little, just short intro here because the list is very long. I'm going to only do a few things here. Mingwei is the founder of MWYO, Group-Oriented Think Tank. Okay? Obviously, that bears his name, the MW, right? So he's the founder of that think tank. And he's the chairman of Chinese Estates Holdings Limited, vice chairman of the Bauhinia Foundation Research Center, the vice chairman of the Youth Development Commission. Now, this is where we are, and I want you to really know Mingwei as a person very generous of his time for young people and the underprivileged. Now, shall we give Mingwei a big welcome and a big round of applause? And he's a very busy president, and he's going to talk to us, and then we may have to leave after that, right? And if you could stay behind for a group photo, we would appreciate it. Yes? Good. Are you ready? Mingwei, okay? All right, so you're ready now, but are we ready, with the film? Yeah. Okay. I want you guys to learn something. I learned a lot from Jack Ma. Isn't he good? His English is very good. He's a good communicator. Well, his English teacher, fine, but you are English major, right? So you should also speak in English. But it doesn't really matter. The accent is not important, okay? But we should actually say things that make sense. The words are important. We put words together to become a phrase, and put phrases together to become a sentence. Okay, so the reason why I want to show this is we don't want to talk about the China-U.S. war, the small businesses being important in society, right? And then Donald Trump now wants all the jobs back to the USA because the country actually let China do a lot of manufacturing jobs, right? And also India do a lot of service jobs. And now they want them all back to the USA. Now we don't want to debate that. I just want you guys to take a look at this young man. He's young, 45 or something like that. Check him out. And he's so confident, and he's filled with conviction, self-belief, right? So this is what I really want to show you and talk to you about. Well, that little video, little 7-minute clip. Now, we have to get on with the main program tonight, which is Calvin Wise going to talk to us. I don't know what he's going to talk about, but I'm sure, I was thinking suspicion is youth related. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll hand back to you.
Philip, first of all, thank you so much for having me here again. This is my second time in 12 months, in 10 months?
7 months.
7 months.
It was in April, wasn't it?
It was in April, yes. It was in Hong Kong U, I think. Now, I'm very conscious that it's only been 7 months and that there are likely repeat audiences or repeat students. And last time I talked specifically about youth and youth development, and I definitely don't want to drill too much or too deep into that for fear of boring you guys. In fact, Philip and I had a phone call 10 days ago. We briefly brainstormed what could be of interest. What can I amuse you guys with this evening? And Philip suggested entrepreneurship and startups. And I said, sure. But silently, I was thinking, what do I know about entrepreneurship and startups? I've never founded a company or started a startup myself. So I feel distinctively unqualified or underqualified to talk about this. Though I actually do have a different perspective. This comes from my 3.5, almost 4 years of involvement in youth or government-related youth work. I actually got to see an interesting side of entrepreneurship in Hong Kong. So I'd rather share that with you as an interested observer of entrepreneurship, of startups in Hong Kong, rather than an actual participant, an actual combatant myself. I hope this is useful to you guys tonight. Otherwise, we will find more amusing things to talk about during Q&A, which you guys are free to ask whatever you guys want. But first of all, show of hands here, those who are under age 25. Okay, everyone. And show of hands here, those who somewhat or quite want to pursue entrepreneurship as one of a few options, like your shortlisted future options. Those who are interested, raise your hand. Raise your hand up high. Those who are seriously considering entrepreneurship. So a minority now. I would say that's normal, and that's actually good, I think. Because in my 3.5 years of being an interested observer of young people and entrepreneurship, I've discovered quite a few things that I mostly don't like, and things that I like about entrepreneurship in Hong Kong. First of all, I want to say entrepreneurship is not something exclusive to young people. When you hear about Facebook, Google, whatever, they're all coming from 20-year-old, 30-year-old techies, what most people would consider young. According to McKinsey, now I cannot find the PDF for this piece, but according to the head of McKinsey in Hong Kong, their study found that the average age of first-time entrepreneur is age 40. So I guess you can say the average entrepreneur is not that young. The average entrepreneur is not your Mark Zuckerberg type of character, college dropout. That I'm sure there will always be examples, successful examples and unsuccessful examples of those, but the average age, according to McKinsey, is 40. And so entrepreneurship is definitely not something exclusive to young people. In fact, I dare say that with age and with experience, you're ever so slightly less likely to fail. In other words, you're more likely to succeed, even though the chances to begin with are slim. But you're ever so slightly more likely to succeed if you go about doing this with a little bit of age, a little bit of experience, especially work experience, and just general experience in the post-university world, post-education world. Simply because I think any form of entrepreneurship, whether you're running a little coffee shop with 2 employees, or whether you're trying to found the next big fintech company, there is a lot of skills and attributes that you need that universities, and I dare say even MBA programs, don't teach that well, or at least don't sufficiently replace, say, 3 years or 5 years of experience in somebody else's organization. 3 or 5 years of being managed by someone else, or 3 or 5 years of following orders or following instructions. So I think, for me, that age 40 age thing makes kind of sense. Now, the one thing that's been happening with the Hong Kong government in the last, I'd say 3-4 years is they have been, and I think, and I hope rightly so, banging really hard on the table, shouting really loud on the bullhorn about fostering entrepreneurship, fostering innovation. You've heard in Cantonese it's Chong Fo, Chong San, Chong Yi, innovation, entrepreneurship, creativity, blah 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 blah. And backing that rhetoric is more and more funding programs, more and more government subsidized or government funded co-working spaces, more and more programs trying to connect entrepreneurs with the mainland, especially the Greater Bay Area. That is all good. The piece that I don't like, and it's not so much the government's sole fault, the piece I don't like is how entrepreneurship, or to use the more favorite term, startups, how startups are pitched to the general public. When you read about startups in the media, especially these days, especially those who are somehow involved with innovation or requires a lot of creativity, it's normally fancy, nice-looking offices, workspaces, where you look more like you're having fun than working. There are ping pong tables. There's nice, colorful couches. That is what the media portrays, and that's what the media covers. The media likes that, and its readers or audiences like that because people like a good story. People like a good story. People like successful things. You very rarely find interviews of how I failed or how I lost $10 million trying to start something to compete with Uber in Hong Kong. Not only do unsuccessful entrepreneurs are more reluctant, not only are they more reluctant to share these stories, but I think generally the media has a bias towards the nice stuff, the colorful stuff, the successful stuff. So for the uninformed or the uninitiated minds, startup looks wonderful. Now, how many of you had that or have that view? I don't know, and I'm not here to judge. But I just want to say there's a lot more to entrepreneurship than what the media portrays to everyone. Most offices aren't that pretty, first of all. In a lot of interviews, it's almost spun as, to use a Cantonese phrase, 一帆風順, which means smooth sailing, good progress. It's very rarely like that. They never show the shabby offices, the late hours, 99 unsuccessful pitches before you had that one successful, tiny little successful one. They don't portray that, but it happens. In fact, in my mind, pursuing entrepreneurship is 5 to 10 times harder, more difficult than pursuing a job and being someone else's employee. Now, it can be very rewarding, it can be very gratifying, but the risks, the challenges, the difficulties, the commitment, I think, is often underestimated. The other bugbear I have, and this comes from speaking to a lot of people, especially young people. The other bugbear I have, though this by no means represent the majority of young people, but it does represent a segment, a small segment at least, is they want to pursue entrepreneurship because they want to be the boss. That to me, maybe because I'm old, maybe because, but to me that is not a particularly good reason. You can be a freelance writer, you can be a slasher, and you're your own boss. But if your main or primary reason to pursue entrepreneurship is to be your own boss, that is quite likely not going to carry you through when you go through your darkest, toughest times. Being your own boss gives you a lot of freedom. You don't have to show up for work at 9 every morning, but what they don't tell you as well is being your own boss means you probably have to show up at 7. So motivation, I think, is an often misunderstood or misguided element in deciding whether to pursue entrepreneurship. I have personally heard, I want to be my own boss, therefore I shall pursue entrepreneurship. Enough time for me to repeat this anecdote. If it's only once or twice, I don't care. I've heard it enough times to put on a health warning on this point. The other point I want to stick a health warning sticker on to the entrepreneurship box is treating entrepreneurship as a career or as an occupation. I hear a lot about people. I want to become an entrepreneur instead of becoming a lawyer, as though the two are equivalent. Doctor versus lawyer, or accounting versus marketing. It's accounting versus it's marketing versus startup. As though that choice that we call startup is something prefixed, predetermined, as certain, or the pathway and what's involved is as certain as becoming an accountant or becoming a lawyer. It's not. In fact, if you do choose that route, you find that there's absolutely, generally speaking, there's absolutely no instructions, no roadmap, no pathways. You go figure it out yourself. There is that treating the entrepreneurship option as an option equivalent to a career in law, career in accounting, career in marketing. And that I actually nicknamed this problem pursuing startups for the sake of pursuing. And people do that maybe because they want to be their own boss. Maybe they mistake this as a career choice, or whatever it is. But look at those who have succeeded, whether succeeded big time or small time. Read their interviews, read their biography. Very few of them started whatever company they started because they chose entrepreneurship or startup as an option. very few of them succeed like that. If any, in fact. Almost all of them started a company or started a project that later turned into a company because they identified a problem that needs solving, and that they have some brilliant idea, be it in the form of a good or a service that can solve or improve that problem. So, unless, again, this is just a general observation, but unless you have a problem you want to solve, you don't have to have the solution, but unless you can at least identify the problem you want to solve, don't even think about entrepreneurship. If you're thinking about entrepreneurship for the sake of entrepreneurship, if you're thinking about entrepreneurship for the sake of being a boss, I'm sorry to say, but you're quite likely to be misguided. If you have a problem to solve, even though you haven't figured out the solution yet, I think you're more likely to be onto something than just having a general vague idea. Now, that pretty much sums up my little sharing on entrepreneurship. But I just want to digress and share a little fact or another slightly related observation that I have. Who in the audience today are current undergrads? Raise your hand high, please. Current postgrads. Not in education or studies. Okay. The one thing I want to share with you, and this may or may not apply to you, which I find quite worrying though. So today, I'm sorry, Philip, I'm wearing the sort of agony and/or worrying, cynical hat today, but I do feel obliged to share this with you. About 3 months ago, I was visited by the Business and Finance Student Society of a reputable university in Hong Kong. I'm one of their honorary advisors. They have a whole entire portfolio of that, and pretty much they spend most of the year knocking on their advisor's door to take photos. But I thought this is so I have in front of me 10 or 12 undergrads who are majoring in business and or finance, and most of them are year 2 or above. And I asked them around the table, if you can have any job in any organization you want today, what would it be? Most of them, and I stress that these are high caliber students from a reputable local university, most of them simply said finance. Then I started drilling deeper. What in finance? Finance is huge. You talk about investment bank, sales and trading, asset management, compliance. Almost none of them can choose a subsector that they're interested in. And these are students who self-claim that they are interested in finance. So my worry for students and young people in Hong Kong, at least from that small sample, is that despite being in their second year or more, despite professing an interest in finance, they don't really know what they want, or they don't really know what finance is. I'm sure they can figure out time value of money and do discounted cash flows, but from that rather disturbing meeting, to me, they didn't know what the industry was about. Yet they claim they want to work in finance. And this was the magic one question. You can have any job you want. They couldn't name it. So that worries me. That actually, I I actually, after that meeting, I've spoken to different university career offices and say, hey, some of your students or some of your competitor students are still fat, dumb, and happy in year 2 and don't know what they want, don't know what finance is. I think you should do something about it. So that I just want to share. All I'm trying to say is there's a lot of time during undergrad or postgrad to find out about different things, to figure out what you want. The worst thing, the biggest disservice you can do to yourself is to not do that, is to not find out about yourself, is to not find out about other interests or other areas or an industry. But I'm seeing more and more of that, and it worries me. And the ones who will get that IBD job at Goldman Sachs or whatever dream lucrative job are those who actually know about IBD at Goldman Sachs in year 1. He or she who gets a head start will try and. I think being someone who cares about students and young people in Hong Kong, I do want to push that realization line from year 2 or year 3 sort of earlier towards year 1. Because it takes time to build an attractive CV. If you haven't started brushing up your CV, finding the right internships in year 1, year 2, you're not likely to get that dream internship, at least that dream job in the summer of year 3. So that's something I've noticed, and it worries me, but I'm trying to do more by speaking to universities, to different business finance societies about that. With that, I'll stop and open the floor to questions.
And if apart from the internship programs, are there any other ways that we could find the most suitable sector, business sector, maybe like finance sector that we are interested in? Because like most of the students at my age, like they have really good academic performance, they have really good activities, but they do not have much experience about how the financial industries operate. So can you give me some suggestions in this point? Thank you.
Finance, right?
Yeah.
So, well, in the introduction, Phil mentioned MWYO, and that's the think tank research organization that I founded. We actually did a piece on getting into the finance industry, because we got a lot of feedback about how difficult it is and why or how 7 out of 10 fresh grad recruits tend to come from the mainland. It's the Hong Kong students who complain. That prompted us to sort of look into why or how and whatnot. I'm not going to address or market that piece too much. That's on the website. You can take a look. But what is interesting to note is I think finance recruitment. Who's interested in that, by the way? If it's only you, I was going to talk to you afterwards. Just one person interested. Okay, very quick. Look, finance recruitment is very rigid, very institutionalized. You now have to do robot interviews. You have to be interviewed by a robot, by a camera. You have to say the right things. It's to a point that it's almost formulaic or mechanical. But there are study guides. There are study guides out there on how to do this. There's even a coach, by the way. There's even a coach who has an office in ICC, who charges a fortune to get top students into the top bank's IBD or whatever department. That coach apparently charges, I think, your entire internship salary plus 2 months of your full-time salary. That's why he can afford an office in ICC. But the point I'm trying to make is this. Year 3 is the prime entry point for fresh grads to get that internship and then get your return offer. In today's very, very rigid recruitment system, recruitment procedures, year 2s, year 1s are unlikely, if not impossible, to get that desired internship in year 2 or year 1. So your effort, I think, is better spent on getting another internship that at the beginning of year 3 with that on your CV, that the Goldman or the Morgan Stanley, seeing your year 1 summer, year 2 summer internships, will be interested in interviewing you. Now, so most of the successful cases, whether it's from mainland or Hong Kong, they build up towards that. So all their year 3 internships are at the top banks, Goldman, Morgan, Macquarie, whatever. Year 2 summer, and sometimes during year 3 term time, they either intern or work part-time at second tier finance-related organizations. If you're lucky, you might get somehow a bit of part-time at a big bank. If you're not so lucky, you might part-time or intern at a small private equity boutique, and so on and so forth. Year 1 summer is even, it's preparing your CV for that year 2 internship. So you cannot 一步到位. You cannot 一步到位, just strike gold on with your first internship. Most successful cases we found sort of build up towards it.
Okay, well, thank you, Ming-Wai. It was great. I'm sure you guys have a long question. I think Ming-Wai is a busy man. He may want to leave a little bit earlier, but we still want to give other people some chances to talk to Ming-Wai during tea reception. Is it okay? If you could stay a little while longer? Okay, 2 points I want to make before we wrap up. One is the corporate type. The other one is the entrepreneurial type. I'm sure we have the corporate type people like Brian, corporate AIA, and then we have entrepreneurial type. The guy was thinking, you, right? I pick up 2 points from Ming-Wai tonight. If you want to be a corporate person, finance, for example, make sure you understand the subsectors and the different disciplines in finance before you go into it. And he said earlier, a lot of kids, they don't even understand what it is. And they just say, the money is good, I'm going to go into it. So that is the corporate side. And the entrepreneurial side is even more pronounced. The problem is more pronounced. A lot of young people today, is that I want to be my own boss. I don't want to work a 9-to-5 job. I want total freedom. But Ming-Wai said earlier, very good point. If you don't even know what the problems are, that your project is going to solve the problem. That your startup is going to solve a set of problems. Don't even think about going into entrepreneurial projects or being a guide in startup. And you're doomed to fail if you do. So I'm sure here we have only 2 types of people. You want to work for companies, you want to work for yourself. But make sure your eyes are wide open before you get in there. All right? And don't chance it. Now, very generous of you. Where you can stay a little bit longer and talk to us. Food and drinks over there. And we can continue to ask some questions, okay?